On this one we're asked to find the zeros, and I've got a fairly large polynomial here, and it's raised to the 5th power. The easiest way to do it is to try to graph this one first. Graph it and see what it looks like on the graph and see if we can identify where any of the zeros are based on the graph. If you were to graph it and use a somewhat standard window, it'll look something like this. You can see that it intersects here, and that we've got a 0 right here as well. Now we need to determine where that intersection is right here. It kind of looks like -2, however it might be slightly off of that. We may end up with a radical there, so we want to just look for sure. And if we take out our calculator, our TI-84 will do this for us. I'm going to enter this expression right there into y equals. And I've already done that just to save a little bit of time here. Okay, so here is our graph of it right now, and you can see it goes up right here, goes down and bounces off. I want to see what this point is right here. So what I'm going to do is hit second trace, and I'm looking for the 0 value, which is my option number 2. I'll click 0, and it asks me to be on the left-hand side. Now here's my point, and I need to be on the left-hand side of that, and I'm way up here right now, so that's not going to work. I need to keep going until I am on the left-hand side. There I am right there. Now that's not quite on the left-hand side. If I click one more, then I'm definitely on the left-hand side. I can't quite see it on my screen, but it'll work. So I hit enter. Now it asks me to go on the right-hand side, so I'm going to try to go up, and there I see my cursor again. I'm definitely on the right-hand side of that one, so I hit enter. It asked me to guess. I hit enter again. And yes, indeed, it was -2. So my x value equals -2 on that one. Okay, so now that I have that, I know that it's -2. Now I also want to try to see this one here, so I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. Hit second trace, and then look for my 0, which is option number 2. This time I need to be on the left-hand side, and I'm moving over. There's my cursor. So I'm definitely on the left-hand side of this intersection point here. I hit enter. Now I got to move to the right. I hit enter again, and then it asks me to guess. I hit enter one more time. So you'll see here that this 0 is 0.9999979. That is a 1, okay? This is the calculator doing its best. So my x value is 1. Now, so I've got a 0 right here at -2, and I know I have one at 1. Because this one comes down, touches it, and bounces right back up, I know that this one is actually a duplicity. In other words, there's 2 1s here. It intersects twice, if you will, right at 1. So I know that my x values are -2, and I've got a double 1 right here. Okay, now let's go back here. So I've got my -2, 0 right here, and then this one is 1, 0, my 2 intersection points. So my zeros are -2, and I've got a double 1 right here. Okay, now I'm going to set up a synthetic division. I'll take all of this right here, and I'll set up my synthetic division. I'm going to start with 1. 1 seems to be an easy one. I like to start with easy stuff. And I'm going to write down, remember with synthetic division, I write down all the coefficients, so this is 1. Now, there's not a coefficient here for my x to the 4th power, so I'll write a 0 in for that one. Notice how this 0 takes my place in my x to the 4th power. Then x cubed is this one, x squared on down the line. I'll go ahead and do my synthetic division on that one. And I bring my 1 down and multiply it all the way across. Just for trying to keep the video condensed, I'll go ahead and do that for you here. Okay, so this is what my synthetic division looks like here. 0 reminder meaning that that is indeed an answer to that one. That's one of my roots. That's a 0. So now I can rewrite it, and I rewrite this one. Starting with this one, it's -8, and then I work my way this way. Okay, increasing the power of my x each time. So I write this down, so there's my -8, then I've got 4x, 2x squared. See how my exponent is increasing each time? This is x cubed, and then x to the 4th power. Now I knew that I had a double 1, so I'm going to go ahead and do another synthetic division with a 1. Okay, and I'm going to set it all up, and I take all the exponents, or excuse me, all the coefficients here of each one of these, what I'm left with, to do my second synthetic division. Now I'm going to go ahead and speed it up just a little bit so that saves a little bit of time. So I do all the synthetic division all the way across here, and I end up with this as my answer. Now I can go ahead and rewrite this out. Now 0 is my remainder, so I don't have any remainder there. That's nice. 8 is my constant. I can write all these out. My 4 goes with this x, 2 goes with x squared, and see how these are written in order. My exponent here is 1, 2, 3. But I don't really have to do this because my next step is to take my coefficient, which is 1, 2, 4, and 8. Take my coefficients out and do my synthetic division. So I'm just going to skip this step right here, and you can skip that as well if you'd like, but it just makes it a little bit faster, is all. I'm going to skip that step. Now I know that my next root here, my next 0, is negative 2. So I'm going to write negative 2 out here and perform a synthetic division. But I'm just going to lose this part right here because essentially I'm just going to set up the same thing. So I did that here. Negative 2, and then I go ahead and do my synthetic division on this one. And again, I'm going to speed it up just to make it a little bit easier here. Okay, and there we go. So now I'm left with this. I can rewrite all these out. 0 is my remainder. So I've got 4, 0x's, x squared. Well, if I have 0x's, I need to rewrite that so it kind of makes sense to me. And that's the same thing as x squared plus 4. Okay, so I had 0x's, I got rid of the 0x there. 0 times anything is 0. So that's just x squared plus 4. And again, we have to remember that this one equals 0. So we'll go ahead and add that now. Okay, so now that we have this, I'm going to try to find out what x equals. So I'm going to need to subtract 4 from both sides. I go ahead and do that now. So then I'm left with x squared equals 4. The way to get rid of this squared is to take the square root of both sides. If I take the square root of both sides, I'm left with plus or minus 2i. Remember, it's a negative underneath the radical. And so that's going to give me my 2i. Remember that it can be a positive or a negative because I'm going to square it to get this answer. So plus or minus 2i is going to be my answer here. Now I have to compile all these. I know that I have a negative 2. I know that I have a double 1. So 1 and 1. I just write it once. There's no sense in writing it numerous times. So I've got a negative 2, I've got a 1, and I've got a plus or minus 2i. So I go ahead and write that. That's my answer on this one. Negative 2, 1, and then plus or minus 2i.